right, hey everybody, today we're going to talk about how to fly your drone, how to fly it safely, how to control it, and some of my favorite drone shots to get at a basic real estate shoot. First thing you need to do, hopping right into it, is check your air map to make sure you are legal and safe to fly here at this location. So if I'm going to do that, all I need to do is open up my air map, which I keep located in a folder with all my other drone stuff. And you can see here that we are at the very edge of a 400-foot flight ceiling. And if you want to check more information on this, you can just expand this down at the bottom. You click on advisories on the controlled airspace, and it will tell you right here that it requires FAA authorization, but it is automated authorization available at or below 400 feet. I will dedicate another video on exactly how to do that, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and get automatic authorization, go ahead and take off and show you how to shoot. The most important thing though before we do that next is, besides the legal requirements, you want to also make sure you look out for practical requirements. That being said, is it dangerous to fly here for any reason because of perhaps bad weather, high wind velocity? Are there large crowds nearby? Anything that you should be looking out for according to the Part 107 training and licensing, you should pay attention to. Anyway, so the first thing you got to do, make sure you're legal, make sure you're safe. The next thing you need to do is make sure you arm your drone and know how to control it. All right, so the next step is to get your drone on and ready to fly. The first thing you're going to need to do is go ahead and use your DJI controller. Yours might look a little bit different than mine, but you're just going to press it once and then a second time and hold it on the second time. This is just a little bit of a safety mechanism to make sure that people who shouldn't be flying the drone aren't flying the drone. All right, so now that the controller is on, I'm gonna go ahead and take the drone and go ahead and do the same thing. Once and a second time to hold, and now that's on. You do want to turn this on when it is on a flat surface, because you can see the gimbal kind of calibrating itself, ready to get to fly, making sure that it's level. It usually does a pretty good job even if you're holding it at an angle, but it does an even better job if you've got it on a flat surface. All right, so the drone is ready to fly. The only thing I need to do now to get it to arm is to grab the controller here, and this should be the same on all DJI devices, and just pull down and towards the middle with both joysticks. And then the drone should arm and you should be ready to fly. All right, so once you have your drone armed, to make it lift off the ground, it's very simple. You just take your left joystick and move it up, and that will rise the drone up. Now, I'm gonna give you some quick instruction on how to control your drone according to each joystick. If you push up with your left joystick, it'll increase altitude, and if you push down on your joystick, it'll decrease altitude. If you pull left, it'll turn the drone to your left, and if you go to the right, it will turn the drone to the right. For your right joystick, if you push up on it, that'll push the drone forward, and back will push it back. And then if you want to go to the right or to the left, like a pan motion, you can do that with your right joystick. And that is essentially how you control your drone. Also, for those of you guys who do want to talk about yaw or roll or something else, most people don't even know what that means, so explaining it here isn't gonna help. The turning and the increasing altitude is all you really need. All right, so as far as drone shots, now that we've got the drone in the air, the first shot I always like to grab, and realtors love this shot, is a shot that's just barely off the ground, depending on how tall your subject is, how tall your house is. You want to get, middle way of the house of the subject, just like we talked about with composition for real estate. We want to try to get that sensor in the middle of the subject. So if it's a tall subject, you want that sensor in the middle. Anyway, this is a great time to do that with a drone if you have a tall subject. And even if you don't have a tall subject, like this basic house that we're shooting today, if you can just get a little bit off the ground to make it look like it's a slightly different bit of perspective, your clients will love you for it. So this is the shot I'm gonna get first. Just gonna take a quick shot of that. And the next shot I like to get is one where I'm a little bit further back. You always wanna make sure that you are safe, keeping an eye on your drone at all times, and getting a little bit back, but more so across the street. You may not be keeping the rules exactly right in regards to having a perfectly flat horizon in this instance, because you are pointing down towards the subject, but that's okay to break the rules sometimes. All right, now that we've got that higher altitude front shot, the next shot I always like to get, and you can't get all of these shots every time depending on the situation you're working with, but I always like to fly straight up above of the property that you're shooting and look straight down at, the property. This looks really nice if if you can add some boundaries in post. For this property, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll just center the house over it. You get a nice look at the roof line and get a good idea of the front yard and the size of the backyard as well. The next shot I like to get, and I'm just gonna fly straight down here, is to feature any features that might be compositionally or aesthetically pleasing. A nice shot that you can get is just featuring the backyard here. So there is a nice fenced in backyard. I'm gonna grab a quick shot of that. And the next shot I'm going to get is featuring the backyard. We don't want to run into any trees. Anytime you don't run into a tree on a drone shoot is a good shoot. There are some larger trees in the back here that I can't really work around, but we're going to do our best. You may be wondering, man, is it legal to fly over someone else's property like I'm doing right now? Yes, it is perfectly legal, as long as you aren't peeping on anybody. So don't use your drone license to spy on anybody, because that is illegal. But if you're using your drone for purposes like us, getting real estate shots, that's perfectly fine. All right, so that's all the shots that I do like to get for a basic home like this. I also like to get shots of the entire neighborhood. If there's any neighborhood pool amenities, I'll usually fly over, get a shot or two of that. That also helps me avoid having to go there in person, which is nice. But this just gives a more of a lay of the land as far as where the house is in the neighborhood. Also, if there's some empty space nearby, if you want to show that this house has some, privacy and some seclusion, that might be a good way to feature that. This house, for example, is kind of got a whole street to itself in one other house. So I'm just going to fly real high and show what the block looks like, give people an idea of what they're purchasing. And if you want to grab one more shot of the neighborhood, you can do that. But honestly, this house is pretty simple. Those are some basic go-to shots I like to get, but there's nothing too impressive to take advantage of here as far as composition. I just wanted to show you something basic so you can learn what I try to go for. Let's go ahead and switch to another property that's a commercial property. It's a lot larger and it's a lot more interesting. So I'll show you what I do with something like that.